Uh, Ambassador Pradhan, this is Professor Saluja. I'm publisher and chief editor of the Indian Panorama. This publication has been there since 2006, and I'm told by readers that it is one of the best newspapers at the moment on the East Coast that I can say. And as you look into our publication, you would see what we are giving to our readers and why we have a readership, that we are proud of.
Right.
Having said that, you're welcome here, sir, to New York, and this is our first meeting. And this is the time to know you and what vision you have of what you would like and what you would like to do here. As I said a little while ago, informally, there is a vast difference between your past experience and the experience that you would be having here. So you might have thought of what exactly do you want to do here and how you want to go about the whole thing. So with that, the ball is in your court, sir.
Thank you, Professor Saluja. It's a real pleasure to meet you and through you to talk to the readers of the Indian Panorama. I am familiar with your publication. I have heard good things, great things about your publication. So it's a real pleasure and honor to speak to you and to your readers through you. I would say you are right. The landscape is different. I was working in Tanzania, which is a big country in its own right, and the relationship between India and Tanzania is quite spectacular. Very good relationship. It's a strategic partner. We have a lot of history between our two countries, but I entirely agree. Coming to this part of the world, it's a very different landscape, and as you mentioned during our informal conversation, it's about 2.5 million Indian diaspora here, and it's a diaspora which is very well connected to India, both culturally, economically, and they have been very active. They have been playing a very critical role as a force multiplier to bring our two countries together. So it's a when I knew that I'm coming to this assignment, I understood the enormity of the task. I understood that it's a very well developed relationship, and coming here, one has to be better prepared to come and contribute in this ever growing relationship between India and US. As you know, I look after 10 states. I represent India in these northeastern 10 states. And when I was looking at the profile of these 10 states, when I was looking at the profile of Indian diaspora, profile of the Indian business here in these 10 states, the economic linkage between these 10 states with India, I found that it's a very active, very organic relationship. The India-US trade is growing every year in double-digit growth, and this region, these 10 states are contributing in a larger way into that economic engagement. Even when you look at the profile of Indian diaspora here, very accomplished people who have contributed in the economic sphere, cultural sphere, intellectual sphere. Look at any aspect, you find the Indian diaspora has contributed richly in that. And the great thing is that they are not limited to United States alone. Now they are also linked very well to India, and they are becoming the robust bridge. I would say several bridges in different aspects between our two countries. In this backdrop, when I look at my job, I would say that my job would be to strengthen this existing relationship. When we say that these days, as we are also working on KPIs, key performance indicators, and we are generally told that we should work on trade, we should work on tourism, we should work on talent, we should work on technology. So we call these are 4 T's. I would say they are going to remain pointers for me to strengthen our relationship on all these 4 T's. The good work done by my predecessors, the good work done by the Ambassador of India in Washington DC. My job is to kind of continue that tradition, to strengthen what has been done on that. So broadly speaking, to your question, I would say to continue the good work that has been done, but also to identify areas where we can strengthen our relationship, areas where we can bring the Indian communities closer to what is happening in India, and the Indian economic and business entities closer to what is happening over here. That would be my broad agenda. But I think 2-3 months down the line, if we sit down again, I would have better statistics, better understanding to tell you exactly what would be what I have understood by then. As you know, this is my first week, so I'm kind of trying to
come to grips with
with different
the
things.
situation.
Yes.
Anyway, Pradhanji, this I think, if I'm not mistaken, you have left a legacy in Tanzania. Probably you are the architect of a wonderful relationship between Tanzania and India, and India having given Tanzania a strategic partner status.
Yes.
That was during your time.
Yes.
Would you like to tell our readers how you managed the whole thing?
It's less about me doing that. It's more about the profile of the relationship between India and Tanzania. As you would see, if you look at the geography, uh, India and Tanzania are connected by Indian Ocean, and the Indian diaspora is present there for more than 200 years. They used to do trade 2000 years back. There is archaeological finding on that, but we have a 200-year-old diaspora there, which is primarily from Gujarat and Punjab.
Right.
So you have Sikh community which is 150-year-old who went to do the railways projects in Kenya and Tanzania. You have Gujarati community who went to do business, and they not only have contributed in economic building blocks of the country, rather they have contributed in a big way in the entire nation building, whether it comes to institution building hospitals, roads, schools. Indian community has contributed in that way. But the other aspect is that that country has welcomed them with open arms. They were always treated as part of Tanzania or part of larger East Africa. So there is a very symbiotic relationship between Indian diaspora and East Africa there. And when I went there, I found that the warmth and the depth of relationship is already there. And we are doing so good in political engagement. The Indian leadership visits there regularly. Their president visits India regularly. We have robust defense cooperation. Economic engagement is growing. Tanzania, was the 4th biggest trade partner of India in entire Africa. And when it comes to development partnership, we are spending $1 billion on water projects alone in Tanzania. We are giving the highest number of scholarships to Tanzanian students. So like I said, the necessary condition was already there. And on the top of that, we decided to set up the first overseas IIT, Indian Institute of Technology, outside India, in Tanzania. And if you look at the context, this is the time when the Prime Minister is talking about Global South. This is the time when the Prime Minister is leading G20, and he's bringing the whole agenda of Global South to the forefront of G20. So, what better can be in terms of an example that you take the most premier Indian engineering institute, IIT, to a country in Global South. Right. And if you ask me why Tanzania in entire Africa among the 54 countries, I would say Tanzania is the place which was the gateway for Indians for more than 200 years to reach out to Africa. When Indians would go to Africa, they were actually entering through Zanzibar. And that's the reason why we chose Zanzibar as the place for IIT. Right. So I would say the necessary conditions were there, and with IIT being open in Tanzania, we are making a political statement about the relationship with them. So I would say announcing India-Tanzania relationship as strategic partnership was a very natural thing to do at that point of time, and it was fitting into the larger priority of the government and the Prime Minister to develop closer relationship with Global South.
Will you allow me to jump from Tanzania to the 2 countries that you that are very much in the news today, and about both the countries, you have had probably a very great understanding. One is Afghanistan, and the other is Iran.
Right.
Would you like to give an account of your experiences and your impressions of the political and economic aspects?
Thank you for asking something which is close to my heart, Afghanistan. I haven't served in any of these two countries, but I was looking after these two countries from the headquarters. And because of that, I have visited both the countries more than 10 times. Like I have been to Afghanistan maybe 15 times and Iran maybe 12 to 14 times, and to different cities in both the countries. It's unfortunate, that Afghanistan had to go through that difficult years for no fault of theirs. And we were part of the solution. We're not part of the problems in Afghanistan. And when I was working on Afghanistan desk, our job was to provide the civilian support, to work with the communities there, to work with the Afghanistan government, with the different ministries, different communities, different societies. And we were doing iconic projects in Afghanistan. We are building their parliament. We are building the Salma Dam to provide water to general people. We are doing small development projects with communities. So it was a very different experience, to go to Mazar-e-Sharif, to go to Kabul, to go to Herat, and work with the government, work with the people, work with the local leaders, the civil society. It was a very different experience. What happened to that, I don't have to elaborate. But I only wish that the country comes back to normalcy. The people, irrespective of which is the form of government, I hope that the people have a good time. The civil society, the people, they get to live with freedom and kind of that space which they deserve. Iran is a very different place. Iran, I was working both from Foreign Affairs Ministry, and also when I was working with the Ministry of Petroleum, I used to deal with Iran. I visited Iran during that time. I would say that's a very different country. We have very strong ties with them. Both strategic relationship, our energy relationship is very, very deep, very old, and the cultural relationship is very strong. And we work very closely even now. In fact, last week our foreign minister was in Iran, so it's a close partnership that we have. But during my time, we were actually working on the Chobahar project, and I still feel very happy that I was part of that initiative. When the government decided to invest in Chobahar port, I was very much part of that team to work on that. And when the sanctions were lifted from Iran, we resumed our energy cooperation with them until again it had stopped. So I would say, going forward, I would hope that we get a chance to work with Afghanistan closely again, and Iran, of course, we are working very closely, and both the countries remain very close to my heart.
Well, talking about Iran, Ambassador Pradhan, recently Iran has requested India to expedite certain, projects that are in the pipeline. Do you have any?
I'm so sorry, I'm not been familiar with this reference.
Okay. So, any word from you, any comment from you about the recent conflict between Pakistan and Iran?
I have served in Pakistan. I spent 2.5 years there, and the dispute or the genesis of the problem between them goes long time back, and even at that point of time we would hear about these problems. So it's just that the magnitude has gone up now, with both countries having kind of resorted into direct action into each other's territory. But let me not make a comment on that. I would say that I personally believe that our region deserves peace, and deserves peaceful means of solutions for every conflict. Because end of the day, we are all part of developing world. Resorting to armed conflict, resorting to this kind of means drains out your precious resources. Things which can be used for development gets used into armed conflict, gets used into non-productive things. And I'm not being diplomatic here. I genuinely believe that our region should focus more on development, and countries, the two countries that you mentioned about, it would be ideal that they find peaceful means to resolve these things. But this is not new, by the way. What you saw has been happening.
Of course, Ambassador Pradhan, the basic thing is we all yearn for peace, and development is possible only when there is peace,
That's true.
And development alone can bring happiness to people, because if development is there, then people have means to sustain themselves.
Right.
So that, of course, is India that way is doing the right thing, focusing on peace in the entire world, rather. I should not just only the region.
Right.
There may be problems with certain countries, of course, in the neighborhood, but hopefully the policy that government of India is pursuing would probably result in lasting peace at least in our area. So here, coming back to New York, what do you feel about the consulate? After you joined.
I would say, I'm familiar with New York. I have come to this place, I guess, 8 or 9 times in past, always as part of a government delegation for 3 days, 4 days. So while the city is not new for me, working here as a diplomat is, a new experience. I'm really happy that the team here, is quite strong. The team is quite experienced, and both the colleagues from the Indian colleagues and the colleagues who are working, the local colleagues we have, both are working as a robust team. So I got a chance in last 4 days to talk to each one of them. I'm really happy that they're all committed to the same cause. I'm so happy to see that the number of complaints about our consular service has gone down drastically. In fact, yesterday I was so happy to see that I'm also linked in the Google Calendar and some digital platform. So when somebody gives a review, I get to see that. And I was so happy that yesterday evening I saw 2 people, giving very positive comments about consular services. And I'm sure, the digital platforms that we have created, are being
Pramit.
used now. Pramit,
Yep.
as well as, the chat, the Bharti, which is more like, responding to general queries.
Also.
Those are helpful. So I'm happy to see that most of the colleagues I have met so far, it's a big consulate. I have got a chance to meet by and large, most of them. I found that each one of them is committed. They have understood the larger objective, that we are here to serve. We are here to further the agenda of the government, which is to bring friendship between the two people and the two countries. Good thing is that in this team, everybody has understood that.
Well, as we say, each generation adds to the experience of the foregoing generations. So you are going to benefit from so many predecessors that you have had. They have been working. I remember a time, when Mr. Prabhu Dayal was here, there were certain things, which were irksome, creating some kind of a, I should say, unhappiness. But over the years, those things have disappeared.
Right.
The consular, services, they have got better. Even the outsourcing, that was, we have had problems earlier with some agencies. Now they are probably giving better service, and the cases of frauds have also gone down quite a bit. But still, there are certain areas, where you will have to probably look into. I understand it's not possible for your staff to be scrutinizing 700 to 800 documents that you get every day. I also understand that this agency that is being outsourced, it doesn't it doesn't have the capacity to scrutinize every single document submitted, whether it is genuine or not. So those things will be there for, I mean, until there is a proper mechanism to ensure that this kind of a thing does not happen. Because during Mr. Muley's time, I remember we were discussing about a couple of passport and visa service centers here. They named, India Passport Service. So people started thinking there's a government of
Right.
India outpost, And during that period, one day, Mr. Mole got a few green cards submitted, and 7 of them were sent to USCIS. 5 of them turned out to be fake.
Okay.
Now, I understand when the papers are being submitted to the agency, there's a tick, 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 this paper is there, this paper. They would not know whether it is genuine or not. And when it's cleared from there and it comes here, I know these people cannot look into all those 700, 800 documents. So sometimes, these things this is just, a
Right.
word of caution to you. You could, whenever you have time, you could just, see, in case, this thing could also be
Happening.
taken care of. I mean, not in a big way, but other things keep happening, agents will always be there. They will always be working, so not a big thing. Now, coming back to one thing, you have a lot of experience about business development, trade and commerce, because in Tanzania, as you just now said, that it is the Indians, particularly the Gujaratis, are mostly
Yes.
traders. And they, in fact, control the economy of that country, if I am not mistaken.
They play
Indians.
play a very important
Yeah,
role. Yes.
they play a very, very important role. And it's the same thing here. We have the Indian diaspora here controlling levers of local economy in quite a few areas. And then there is the wider interest of promotion of trade and commerce between India, between the US and India.
Right.
It has been happening here. It has accelerated over the years. And I'm sure you are the one who is going to probably look into the ways and means to further accelerate it.
Right.
Do you have any roadmap for that?
It would be not correct for me to say that I have a roadmap at this stage. Like I said, it's very early, but I understand the task. If we have a target of $500 billion of trade between India and United States, we need to do better. We need to, bring the Indian business communities closer to the American business communities. We have to find the complementarities. We have to find the gaps where we can export more. We have to find gaps where, we can connect the American business with Indian business in a win-win situation. So we know the target, that it's a $500 billion target we have. We understand that, now both the leaders, of the two countries, they are meeting almost, quite a few times a year. So we are getting the developments reviewed at very high level. But having said that, I think, to make it a truly 21st century relationship, we have to have stronger economic engagement, stronger technology engagement between India and United States. I understand the 10 states that I deal with in this region. They are very prominent players in this subject. So I look forward to work with the business communities here very closely. I want to work with the Indian business communities very closely, who are stakeholders here. As you know, we have prominent Indian companies, more than 150 who are present here. So I intend to identify areas where our intervention as consulate can actually lead to some kind of a enhancement of trade and investment engagement. But it's not one-sided. When I talk about economic engagement, I don't mean to only indicate about Americans investing in India, or I don't mean to Indian exporting to United States. I actually look for a win-win partnership because if it is to sustain, if it is to be a long-term, sustainable process, it has to be both ways. And when I was in petroleum, I was part of the project in a different way. That was the time when United States decided to allow export of crude oil and export of LNG. And I was working in petroleum ministry those days, and we were wondering whether it would be possible to import crude oil from United States, because when you look at the map, you find Middle East is just in your backyard.
Yeah.
So taking a crude vessel from here to India, the transportation cost
Yes.
would probably be
Absolutely.
difficult to handle. But we found that it was perfectly doable. And look at the trade now. Both LNG and crude oil export from US is one of their major exports to India. So I would say that is one example that how you find an area which can be win-win for both of you. So as I said, I'm part of a team. So it's the embassy in Washington D.C. We as consulate, we work very closely as a team with the Ministry of External Affairs and other government departments. Good thing is that we receive political leaders from India very regularly here. We receive people from here going to India quite regularly here. So my idea is to work very closely with the stakeholders from both sides, both government and private sector, and identify quite early as to which are the areas where our intervention would make an impact.
Right.
So of course, we'll continue to do what everybody else was doing. So like I saw that in next 2 months, we are participating in different exhibitions, whether it is Indian beverages, or whether it is coffee, whether it is seafood event in Boston. We're going to continue what we have been doing. And that has been helpful. If we are talking about 20-25% growth in trade, that means things are happening. But if you are talking about reaching that $500 billion target, I would say we have to bring in other areas as well. So that's where I say that I look forward to work with stakeholders. And also, I would say in a candid way that friends like you, people who have been watching, the engagement for a long time, people who must be getting, you have readers, you have your viewers, so you must be getting feedback from your people.
Sure.
So feedback from friends like you would also be, quite valuable in that respect.
Your one district, one product, this thing is also working very well.
Yes.
And I'm told that probably in the coming month or so, there is probably you're going to focus on jute products from India.
Yes, jute product. This time we, as you agree with me, when we bring a product, we have to sustain the focus on that.
Right.
If we do it for a year and forget the next year, it won't work. So I feel that the focus that we have put on coffee, we would continue that this year as well. Indian beverages would continue. Jute is a I'm sure it would gain traction. So that would also remain a focus area. But we tested it last year. We found there is good demand for those products which are ODOP products, and we plan to continue the focus for 5-6 years on each product, so that people develop familiarity, people develop acceptance to that.
And the market is created here.
Yes.
And so that the exports could be done from that.
So we'll not be shifting every year, jumping from one to another. We would keep adding new products.
Wonderful. Ambassador Pradhan, we have so much more to talk about, and could we take about 2 minutes break?
As you wish.
We are going to take 2 minutes break, and we are going to get back to the conversation with Ambassador Pradhan, who is the Consul General here in New York. Just 2 minutes.